folks. I am standing and walking right in front of the historic and thankfully preserved Coplay Cement Kilns. Now this is a great backdrop to where we are right now. An hour drive from Philadelphia, the third most populous town in Pennsylvania, Allentown. This destination we're here today played a very critical role in the lead up to the Revolutionary War and still stands to this day. We'll be exploring all over Allentown and seeing the wonder that's still here. Now these great kilns right behind me, at the turn of the 20th century, provided this region and even other parts of the country with a very high quality Portland cement. It was a very volatile or dangerous type of cement, but it was what they had at the time and very high quality. So all around where we are, which is known as the Lehigh Valley, we've been here before, cement like this from these kilns were used. Now I'm very glad that these kilns are preserved and somewhat intact. Not only is it just a nice visual beauty among these trees and surrounding hills, but it's also very interesting to see just how significant this complex was to the area. So join me as we explore and discover what people here in the Lehigh Valley region of Pennsylvania call the Queen City, Allentown. Now as I'm walking, I'm trying to figure out where a good view of the Lehigh River would be. And as you know, we've been to the Lehigh Valley, we've visited Easton, and we've seen what the Lehigh River looks like as it's converging with the Delaware. But upstream, the river is a little bit smaller and a little more quaint and peaceful. Huh, would you look at that? Looks like some abandoned infrastructure. Maybe a railroad? There's some grid wiring remnants, the posts up here. Pretty interesting. And what have we here? My oh my, that is the Lehigh River. Now I wish there was a nice little walkway, parallel, adjacent to the river flowing. But alas, this is what we're going to have to deal with. A big steep drop. Oh well, let's visit someplace else. Let's go to downtown Allentown. Before we leave though, I can't help but notice, I love how the industrial past of Allentown is included in every little thing, even the park benches. Now I don't know what this is, but it looks very industrial, like it was used for some factory or train. I'm not sure what it is, like I said, but it looks really cool. Once again, before we go to downtown, I like to take little scenic detours. So here we are at the famous Allentown Fairgrounds. Now this place dates back at least 120 years or so. Doesn't really help that there's a motor in the background, but alright, it's alright. This place was home to Allentown's greatest festivals through the decades and generations. As you can probably tell, this place is empty, aside from whatever's going on back there. Nothing is really going on, it's the beginning of April, but we can admire that this place still stands. There's the seating. I'm not sure whether the people sitting there are supposed to be watching things that go on right here. You know, for all I know, this might be a racetrack. But it's very, very interesting to see the places that are home to Allentown's history. However, something great is going on around the corner. Let's see that. By now we've been to a couple in the last few videos. The Lancaster Central Market, then the Reading Market. which I loved. All different fusion of different shops and stands. It was a great feel. And now this one, with the same name, by the way. This is also the Fairgrounds Market, but instead of being in Reading, it's in Allentown. By now you could probably tell I love marketplaces. They're the one location where you can really find real people, buying real things, enjoying real food, sharing real stories. It's the most authentic place one can go in a city, where all the things are sold, where all the commerce is done. So let's go check out what the Allentown Fairgrounds Farmers Market is all about. Now, wasn't that awesome? I don't know about you, but I found that just so fun to look at all the shops open, from the produce to the handcraft goods. They even had a general store of some sort at the far end. One thing I liked about this place was instead of a big open area where you have to sort of find your way through a maze of shops, it was this one long thing. That long complex was the farmer's market, and you could easily find your way through by just going this way or that way. Another thing I love about these farmers markets all around Pennsylvania is that they have things fresh. Nothing's store-bought. Everything is farm-grown and produced, and it's simply wonderful. From the pickled goods in the jars to all the meats that were raised by the local farms here in Pennsylvania and around the area. So, come to one of these farmers markets if you're ever interested in not spending too much money, but having a good time nevertheless, immersing yourself in the local Pennsylvanian culture. Now, let's try to get to Allentown, the city center, after all of these detours. Let's go. So it's clear to see we're in the downtown area right now, and forget Harrisburg, forget Reading. This seems like the biggest place the coverage project has covered thus far. Now there's something I must address. Most people, when they think of the Allentown area, they think of one thing: Dorney Park. And if that's your thing, if you like going to water parks and theme parks, that's great, but I go by a little something that goes like, splish splash, you're paying too much cash. You know what's really fun? Every city I go to, even just a small town, has a clock at the city center. I wonder, it could be a goal of ours to locate where the clock is at every place. Like I said before, the city is sort of the capital of the Lehigh Valley area in Pennsylvania. And I think it's always important to know where you are so you can understand a bit of the culture. So to the north, there's the Pocono Mountains, a big stretch of uplands and valleys, and it's a beautiful sight. And to the south, you have Philadelphia, a really big metropolitan area. But in the middle, you have this little river valley. And over time, that developed into cities like Bethlehem, Easton, which we visited already, and of course, Allentown. Now, if there's one thing that everyone should know, or something of historical significance, Allentown is where the Liberty Bell was hidden and kept, and successfully hidden, from the British during the Revolutionary War. So people of Philadelphia, you have Allentown to thank for keeping your beautiful, shiny bell of hundreds of years of age intact. Because who knows what would have happened if the British got a hold of that. Over time, Allentown transformed from a humble little town full of German-speaking people to a thriving city where manufacturing and industrialization transformed the cityscape and the demographics as well. You'd have brick factories, silk mills, as we saw at the beginning of the video, from the Coldplay Kilns, cement. Among other things, Allentown was known for its transporting coal from up in the north of Pennsylvania down to Philadelphia and other city centers. So all in all, Allentown was a very manufactured-based city. Now, along with many other cities in the Northeast United States, it was also subject to a lot of deindustrialization in the middle of the 20th century. So a lot of jobs were lost, and there was a lot of economic decline. But surprisingly, Allentown is one of those few cities in the Northeast that sort of rebounded. Recently, there has been a lot of service jobs in the Allentown area, and so despite the trend of Northeast cities going on a downturn, in recent times, Allentown is actually on an upswing, sort of right now. Well, it seems like we've seen a lot now, but I didn't anticipate this at this time right now, but my battery is getting low on my camera. So I might as well end this video off on a good solid note, rather than my camera's battery dying and not getting that much needed conclusion of the video as I always do. Seemingly having gotten lost somewhere in Allentown. As you can tell, I'm right in front of a parking lot. It's not so exciting, but we'll have to do with what we have. More travels to come. I will see you at the next location.